Welcome to AEC Stories. This is former SM3 Dempsey of the USS Mount Hood. This week we've got a really special guest, not from the Mount Hood, but an exceptional human being. Lieutenant Jesse Iwuji, who's also a Nascar driver and played on the Navy Midshipmen football team. This guy's an all-around triple threat. I'd call him a unicorn, but anyways, he makes me proud that he's representing the Navy so well. And this podcast, we drop in somewhere along the lines where he and I are talking about these Hemi engines, because I used to have one, and my friend used to have one, and we're talking about this tuner. So you're kind of walking into something, the back end of a conversation about this guy that charged people a lot of money to make their cars go faster. But then we break into all the different aspects of Jesse's career, and this is a really good listen. So please share this with all your friends. Like us on Facebook at AEC Stories, or also, follow us or give us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or Podbean.com. That really helps us get more listens, and it's just only a matter of time that a lot more people will be listening to this. So thank you for your support and enjoy the podcast.
The motor should be able to handle like 1,100, 1,200 horsepower.
Yeah, 1,200 horsepower, but hey, we're going to give you 120 horse upgrade or 170 horse upgrade. I think that's what it was. But but they just charge a lot of money. I mean, they have these like 40 grand deals where like you have 40 grand and you make 600 and some or 700 horsepower. I'm like, holy crap, dude! I can spend like 15 and make that import power on the same vehicle. Well, you have your motors, I take it.
Well, yeah, it's just what they do is they charge for the name, and then they just charge a lot of extra for the people who go do it with them. Tend to have money a lot of times, so they can do that. But really, I mean, those bills, they're not too crazy. I mean, it's not. Yeah,
Well,
I think they overcharge. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, and you're from Texas, so this is kind of close to home. I think Hennessy operates out of there, right? So
Yeah. They just had they had a lot of issues too. I know in the past. I don't know. Hopefully things have changed with them, but I know like there was a lot of times where they were promising these big horsepower numbers for certain vehicles, and then people would go do it, and then either it didn't make the power or it had a ton of issues, and then they weren't standing by their word, and they were taking people's vehicles to do a build, and then they held it forever, and then whatever. There was all this stuff happening around them.
yeah.
And then that on top of them charging their ridiculous amount of money for power levels that you can achieve for maybe a third of the price. After I'm not a fan.
Well, I mean, he did take care of my buddy. What he ended up doing is putting back the stock motor and giving him back his money. I guess because he was worried about his reputation, and my friend wasn't like some super jerk about it or anything, but he's like, hey, the Pistons are about to shoot through this thing. You know what I'm saying?
That's good that he did that, because the thing is, he had so many issues in the past that he probably was doing that so that he could, kind of save face, because there was just so much stuff, and I mean, that's good. That's good. That's what should happen. I mean, if you don't do it right, then just give them their money back.
Well, it is a risky deal because, I met another guy, since we're just talking cars before we jump right in, but I met the guy that did the show for Chip Foose down in Southern Cal. Chip Foose has those tuned-up cars, and he basically had the first, what became the Cadillac CTSV, the vet motor in the Cadillac. And, after driving in the Hemi and I jumped in that thing, I was like, whoa. I mean, it was like 550 horsepower in the street, and I'd never sat in anything that quick. I was like, wow, this is nuts, But to you, that's like, it's a Camry. And the Camry you drive is different, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm so grateful that you came to be on this podcast with me, because there's a lot of you're helping out lift the podcast up by adding some Navy celebrity to it, but you're also a great role model in so many different ways. I mean, being an officer, being a great football star, track star, and getting into racing and still staying in the Navy. That's just so admirable, man. I mean, you can't say that there's 10 other guys like you on this planet. There's just you. So you kind of cut your own way, you know?
Trying.
I mean, how is it? I mean, you still love being part of the Navy, I'm guessing.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to stay in it. I always wanted to kind of keep that connection because that's like part of my story. Is being in the Navy, racing, doing it all at once. So I wanted to stay in it because I knew that doing that would give like other people hope. And be like, okay, I can do this too. I can be doing whatever job I'm doing, whether I'm in the military or not. Still chase my dreams. So that's like the whole thing. Like if I'm just a straight racer only, then then that it's not.
Yeah.
I can't relate now to people.
Right, but you also kind of need that adventure too. I mean, you were in the Gulf a couple times, right?
Yeah, twice. 2012 for about 10 months, and then 2014 for about 5.
So was the first time on doing the mine operations, like getting rid of mines, minesweeping?
Yeah, I was on a Minesweeper. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's pretty interesting because when I was in Desert Storm, I spotted a mine and had us, change course because I was a rate that doesn't exist in your Navy. I was a signalman.
Oh well, they changed signalman now to they're all quartermasters.
That's right, and I think it's hard to do both jobs effectively at once. I mean, we did serve a purpose. We were like the master lookout, but I don't know. It's I don't when I saw some things happen, and the cool thing about this podcast is I get to learn about the current Navy because things have changed so much since I got out. I mean, we didn't have cell phones. Well, one guy did, and he walked around like he was the coolest OG in the block because he had this big suit. He had this big suitcase phone, You never saw him making phone calls because they were $8 a minute.
Oh my goodness, geez, that was crazy.
You imagine that, and there was no laptops. I mean, just to give you an idea of the technology, when I was in 87 to 93, I think the total, Radio Central, CIC, all their computers combined, probably had about definitely had less horsepower than a cell phone does today. Wow. A smartphone, right? So yeah, you guys got I watch videos and I'm trying to say, what are they doing now? So I see, videos of other ships in the berthing. They're looking at the movies on their laptops. They're calling home on Skype or something. I'm like, huh? We didn't get to call for 3 months at a time,
Yeah.
So what is it? What is it like? What is it like doing the minesweeping operations?
Yeah, so it's interesting. The processes, haven't changed a lot over the last, over a long time. We still have the same type of equipment as they did when they first came out. It's an interesting process because there's so many ways of doing it. You have your, first you got to find the mine. So either you know that there's a minefield there, or you have to go hunt for a particular mine. And in both processes, you eventually find one if you do, or you find a piano on the bottom of the ocean floor, whichever. But once you find them, at that point, then you got to sweep them. And when you sweep them, there's different options. And those options depend on what type of mine. Is it a mine that's on the bottom? Is it a mine that's tethered to something? Is it a mine that's floating? There's all different kinds of mines. And the thing with mine warfare is it's great for small countries that don't have a ton of money, so they can spend $5 or $10 grand on a mine that's going to do, $2, $3, $4 million of damage on a ship and put it out of commission for a while.
Yeah, I mean that's basically the IED of the sea, if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
And
but people don't do it so much anymore, just because if you do put mines out there, it's like an act of war. So you can't even really do it unless you are basically saying, "I'm going to war."
Yeah, they don't play. So you were in the Persian Gulf?
Yeah, now they call it the Arabian Gulf.
Interesting. They changed the name of the movie that we were all in.
Yeah, no, it used to be the Persian Gulf, and then a lot of countries out there got mad because they're like, oh, it's not Persian because it's not. They basically were saying it's not the Iranian, Gulf. It's everyone's Gulf, so they call it the Arabian Gulf because everyone there is Arab.
Has a better ring to it. Did you ever, I go off on the tangents, but just to, add some picture to the experience. But did you ever see any sea snakes off the side of the ship out there?
Oh man, did I? That's them all the time. Those things are crazy. That's why I'm like, I ain't never taking a bath or falling into this water ever, because there's a bunch of them out there, and they're not cool. Those things are big and fast. I mean, if you fall in the water, like, you're not swimming away from a sea snake. That thing is just, it's like a fast rattlesnake, just like, or one of those sidewinder snakes in the desert. You know how they're really fast? It's like that in the water.
Yeah, and if I tell a civilian who's never been out to sea, or they've had basic, I don't know, biology or whatever, it's just study of animals and zoology. Okay, so have you ever heard of a sea snake? Well, that kind of ranks up there, when we talk about the made-up version, which is the sea bat. But yeah.
Yeah, no joke.
I had to do a man overboard thing. Well, really not for a man overboard, but one of the helos swept a box that they thought might have a very important part for the ship. We didn't know what it was, but we had to go save it. So I got there with the man overboard crew, and we went after it. And we had to fish the box out of the water. Of course, we're like, yeah, if any sea snakes pop up, just hit them.
Yeah.
That was kind of
Crazy.
funny. But so was that so that was your first experience? You did 10 months out there, and was the Navy living up to everything you thought it might be?
Yeah, no, it definitely lived up to everything I thought it was going to be. Being out there, I learned a lot. Got to meet a lot of people, be in a different scene. I mean, just different side of the world, different view of life and everything. And I actually enjoyed it out there. It was a good time. Got to see a lot of cool stuff, eat a lot of cool foods. Just see a different side of the world. So definitely enjoyed it for sure. Got to go some cool places, and during our off time, on land, got to have fun. So got to go out and party and club and all that stuff, and had a really good time. So yeah, I definitely learned a lot, and it was a really good experience being out there.
What was some of your favorite ports that you get to go to out there when you were on deployment?
Honestly, my two favorite. So Bahrain's, a good time. Bahrain's cool, and I stayed in Bahrain for about 10 months. But as far as port visits when we were out there, other places we went to, Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Those were two of my favorite places out there. Dubai is just awesome, just because of the architecture, the amount of money out there, just the life out there. It's just really crazy, insane. I mean, everything they do out there is to try to be the best, which is pretty cool to see. And then Abu Dhabi is a beautiful place, especially where the Formula One track is. There's this really nice Formula One track there called Yas Marina, and it goes through a marina which has like these, crazy $1 million yachts and things like that. It's just an insane place. So, definitely love going to those two places. All the people are really, really cool. A lot of Westerners there. Most everybody speaks English, so that's great. And it's just fun and cool place to be, and just neat to see.
What is that one track? I know that the UFC put a fight out by that track. I think they did one fight in Abu Dhabi or one of those places. But there's a track.
Formula One track.
That's the one,
yeah.
Formula One? Okay.
So there's a Formula One track in Abu Dhabi, and there's also one in Bahrain. I don't know if there's one in Dubai or not, but I know there's one in Bahrain for sure. I never got to go to the Bahrain one. I wish I would have, but at that point in my life, I wasn't thinking about NASCAR or anything like that.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, being an officer is busy a life enough. I mean, all of those responsibilities, making sure everybody's doing their job and doing your job as well. I mean, especially being an officer, I mean, that's a lot of work. That's a serious management job compared to a lot of civilian jobs. People don't know, man. I mean, I've been out of it for 20 years, but looking back, I reflect and I go, wow, boy, did we have to be responsible for a lot of really important stuff. Oh man, I mean, what a change of life. So when you joined the Navy, my wife and you were the same age. I'm older. So I was just joining the Navy when she was born and you guys were born.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just filling you in. I was stationed up here at Concord Naval Weapons Station on the USS Mount Hood, which was an auxiliary ship, an AE. That's why I called it AEC Stories. But I did a lot of my, I've done a lot of podcasts with my shipmates, but I wanted to reach out because there's so many people that saw so many different things, and I'm intrigued by everybody's sea story. I don't want it just to be like, yeah, and we all went out and we did an unrep, and then we did another unrep. Guess what we did on the next podcast? More unreps. But I'm kidding. I mean, there is a life story. What I really like is, hey, I'm a little kid from Alabama, never seen anything crazy. I land in San Francisco, and all of a sudden this biker gang almost runs over me, and I'm just away from home, and I meet the girl of my dreams. That kind of story. Those are the kind of stories I like.
Yeah.
The adventure. Go ahead.
Some good ones.
What's a good kind of sea story you could lay on me?
So I have quite a few, but one of the more interesting ones was when I was in Bahrain. So I was there during a time, and I don't know if it's still going on now, but I was there during a time where the people, the poor people, the people who felt like they were oppressed over there, were protesting. And they weren't peacefully protesting at all. So they were doing a lot of destructive things. And there's sometimes on the ship we wouldn't be able to go out on liberty because there was a protest, or liberty was delayed until the protest was done. So one night, we're out on liberty and we're already out there. And I think I need to head to the base to go work out or something like that. And I grab our ship's duty vehicle, the duty truck, and we called it the O truck because it was the officer truck because only officers could use it. It was a small little pickup truck, and I was going to drive it to base, so I'm driving. And typically you're supposed to stay like on the main roads for the most part, especially at night, just so there's a lot of lighting and all that stuff. You're not really supposed to take the back roads there. I mean, they tell you at first, don't take these back roads, and then eventually we all take the back roads because for the most part it's safe. And it's just quicker to get to the base. So it's at night, it's dark, and I start taking the back road. I'm like, whatever. And then all of a sudden, I see a huge gang of people on the back roads or whatever. I'm like, what's going on? I'm still driving towards them. And then they're all like holding up these black flags, and they have these crazy writing on them. They're all in like bandanas and masks and all this stuff. I'm like, what the heck's going on? And then out of nowhere, one of them throws this Molotov cocktail, and it erupts into flames, and they start trying to burn everything near them. I'm like, what the heck? I'm like driving towards these people, and they basically turn into an angry mob, and they go from like standing there to like running my direction, all of them. There's like at least like 100, 200 people.
Oh my God.
Sprinting my direction, throwing Molotov cocktails, starting to burn whatever they can burn, and wave their crazy flags and protest, but they're running like crazy people, like towards me. I'm like, holy crap! So I immediately like stop. I was like, pull the quickest reverse I could pull and get out of there like crazy. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not gonna die tonight. I'm not getting my head chopped off. And then I get back around, and I finally get back onto the street and head to and get to the base safe. But I was like, oh my God, this is why they tell us to take the main roads.
I learned my lesson, but you did your J turn, your escape maneuver, and you were accidentally headed to an ISIS convention, and luckily you made it home.
Jeez, it was crazy. It was so crazy. I was like, I gotta get out of here.
I know I never had anything that drastic per se, like a 200 crown mob. I'm not going to try to top that off, but I do remember being in Hong Kong, and I swear we walked into that part of China that wasn't Hong Kong. And I was with three or four of my buddies, and we're all these big weightlifter dudes, and we're really bigger than the people there. And we walk, so everywhere in Hong Kong, it's all, it was British leased. Britain had control of Hong Kong still before they gave it back to China. And we walk into the wrong part of town, probably something that looks out of a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie where we're gonna have to do some blood sporting. I don't know. But we walk in there, and the people just start looking at us, and we start looking around like, hey, there's no more McDonald's signs or 7-Elevens here. We must be in the wrong part of town. And people were looking at us like, what the hell are you doing here? But luckily, nobody attacked us. I think they were a little timid, but we're like, we need to stop, drinking beer and walking in the wrong direction. So I kind of understand. Made you check yourself.
Yeah.
Did you... There's so much to ask about you, but your sea stories is what I'm hitting on now. How was it changing going from doing mine detail to the badass Comstock?
Yeah. So it was a huge switch. So being on a Minesweeper is only like 200 or just over 200 feet long, 224 feet long. We have a crew of like 80 or so people, and you go from a small ship like that where everybody knows everybody. You're all one small little family. You go from a ship like that to going to a big 609-foot long ship with 400 plus people on board. And then with the Marines, it's like 800 plus people.
Wow.
So it was huge. It was way different. I mean, you could fit the Minesweeper in the well deck area of the Comstock. So I literally, there's the Comstock well deck is longer than a football field. It's like 100 feet longer than a football field. So yeah, it was just crazy going there. The main reason I picked it for two reasons. I picked it for one, the amphibious warfare community tends to be I feel like a lot easier to work with. Like everyone's a little bit more relaxed, laid back, and not as uptight as sometimes maybe the destroyer and cruiser Aegis community. They tend to be a little bit more uptight, probably because they have all these missiles on board. But for us, it just wasn't. It's just a little bit more chill of the atmosphere, which is like my personality. And then the second part was I knew I was going to be going on deployment again. And if I'm going on deployment, I'm very into fitness. I wanted to make sure that I was going to be on a ship where I could still run and work out. So I needed a ship that was going to have a good gym and a place for me to run. And I ran in the well deck almost every day, or on a flight deck. I did sprints like every day. So I stayed in shape, and we had like 2 or 3 gyms on board. So I got to work out, plenty, and stayed in some awesome shape throughout the 5-month deployment.
That's a great choice. I used to love the gym on the ship, and then my I guess you had, and you also had some other characters to kind of challenge you in the workout, like some Marines or some Special Forces guys that could make it, someone to compete with, kind of pushes the game. And when I was on my ship, we get the EOD, and I'm like, I gotta see, I never get to go through EOD, but they do the most monstrous workout compared to what I got in boot camp. Let me see what it's like to do 1,000 or 2,000 push-ups per workout versus 100 like we did in boot camp. You know what I mean? And I got to tell you, I was more into lifting weights, so it was a bit of a climb to acclimate to that level of calisthenics, to like Super Trooper, Billy Badass, Special Forces calisthenics, man. I remember people making fun of me, but I wanted it so bad, and people looking down from the signal bridge at me, and I'm down there on the deck, out there in the open, doing flutter kicks with the vein just running down my forehead, going, "Damn it!"
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, had you ever entertained, because you were an exceptional and still are an exceptional athlete, had you ever entertained Special Forces at any point?
I thought about it for maybe one quick second, but the thing was, it wasn't going to be something for me. I was just with what I wanted to do in life, where I wanted to be. I didn't want to do it. Like, I feel like I could physically, but
yeah,
like it's not what I wanted to do, not where I wanted to go. I needed the ship, being on a ship. That was kind of more my swim lane.
I don't think you have any reason to challenge yourself in any direction. After making the midshipman football team, that's like making its own Special Forces. And,
Exactly.
Right. I mean, and then becoming a professional race car driver. I mean, you continue to join more Special Forces as you go along anyways. That's just how I see it. So are you planning to put in a full-time career? I mean, I know they're changing the standards for retiring from the Navy and stuff now. I know they try to get people to early out, or I don't know, they make it more transitional, it seems. Am I right about that? I'm just reading articles. I'm not in it like you, so I don't know as well.
Yes, I'm staying in as long as I can until I can get my retirement. So now that I'm in the reserves, I'm just doing pretty much the time I have to do to make that happen. And I like being in the Navy. I like the benefits. The benefits are awesome. I love serving. I love being part of the whole military type team. It's nice. It's cool. Something I've been doing for such a long time. It's like, well, I gave it up. There's a lot of great things with
for a guy that's been out since 1993, I've never felt more in tune with what you're saying until later in life. I mean, the first, I'll tell you the transition for me was, okay, I'm out. And when I get out, there used to be the old lifers going, you're just going to go flip burgers. You'll never be anything. That was from the enlisted perspective. I mean, the officers getting out like, I'm going to go get a manager job over at Levi Strauss and make six figures. They all had their ideas. I've talked to my former ops boss, and we're really tight, and he's a great guy. And John Joyner, he left our ship, and first he taught the Italian Navy. He was teaching over in Pisa, Italy, which was a really cool job. He went to Monterey, near where you were at, to the Language Institute to learn Italian. And then he went over and he was teaching naval tactics and stuff at their academy for a while as some kind of exchange duty. And then he came to the Mount Hood. He runs into me. I was a military brat, so I spoke Italian. He's like, huh? How do you speak Italian? I'm like, 17 years, buddy. So, we stayed in touch. And I had him on the podcast, so if you get a chance, you can check it out. He's a pretty cool dude. But he later went from our ship to a carrier to being an XO in Naples, and then he got out and went into high tech. And I think, and I'm just sharing this with you because, you probably already know this because based on what I see you doing, you're like in the know. We get out of the Navy thinking, we still have to earn our way back again up the rank ladder. We didn't realize that all the great training that the Navy gives you, you should be able to write a really good resume with it and get any job you want anywhere. You know what I mean? But I didn't realize it at the time. I hadn't. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's definitely true. I mean, you learn so much in the military that when you get out into the civilian world, you have so many skills that other people weren't able to during whatever years they were doing whatever they were doing. And you kind of have a leg up and a step ahead. I mean, just the leadership, the experience of being able to manage people, manage time, manage multi-million-dollar equipment, operate multi-million-dollar equipment, manage budgets. Man, you learn so much that you can get out into the real world and apply. Really, kind of, you can where you left off in the military, you can get out into the civilian world and pick up right around that same area and continue to grow.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, for you and your racing, I'm sure all that discipline helps. But that started from your athlete days into your naval prep, and then into the academy, and then playing for the midshipmen, and then going into the Navy. I'm like, man, the guy never stops. I'm like, I got to talk to this guy. Well, I mean, have you ever done any TED Talks on leadership or anything like that?
I have not, but it's something I can see myself doing eventually in life. I mean, with my story and where I'm going, once I get to the top level that I want to go to in NASCAR, I feel like I'll be able to tell an awesome story to a lot of people. You talk about just motivational talk, TED Talks on how to succeed and all that stuff, because I'm learning so much right now, and it's happening at a somewhat fast rate, not like ridiculously fast, but at a rate where I can retain all this information, and I'm starting to try to write down my story too a little bit to kind of help myself remember it in the future. But I could definitely see myself doing it because there's so many things I've learned on this whole journey and things I've applied. And honestly, right now, what's helping me the most is I'm actually applying some concepts I learned in ninth grade. I'm applying those same concepts I learned and used then to get myself to a certain level. At that point, I'm applying the same ninth grade concepts that I learned then now, and that's what's helping me.
Yeah, I can tell. I mean, I have some things in common with you, even though I'm retired and not really retired by choice. A lot of my maladies from the military caught up to me, so I'm 100% DVA. But for a while, I ran hard in the civilian world in business and, did a lot of stuff. And I chased everything with the fever. I mean, just nothing can stop me. As my brother used to say, he goes, if you get knocked down the mountain, you will claw your way back up that mountain to success like it owes you something. And I see that. I see that you probably have a clearer picture than I did. And, I kind of screwed off more of the years where you were being productive and then got productive later. So it's a different transition. But, now I'm sitting here at 49 understanding. Wisdom finally kicks in after all the experimentation, right?
Yeah.
But it's like I see someone like you, I'm just like, it's been a weird thing in my life. I meet people that are on their way up, like you, that are about to be even really, really famous, whether they were musicians or actors or professional athletes. I'm like, this is another one of those guys that I'm talking to that like 2 years from now he's going to be in a whole different place.
That's the goal, and that's what I'm working on. I mean, it's a steady grind and everything, but that's what I'm working on. And every single day I'm always doing a step. It's funny because I tell people when I get home, I don't get to. When I get home, I don't just get home and get to relax and chill and watch some TV or whatever. Like when I get home, like I begin my second job. My second job is now working on marketing stuff for myself at Nascar, working on marketing my business and promoting it and doing some business development stuff, working on networking, connecting,
you there?
Building sponsorship presentations, doing training on. Hello?
Sorry, you're there. You were just cutting out for a second. I got you back.
Okay, yeah, I was saying I'm working on so much when I get home, until about 1 o'clock in the morning or so. So, it's a steady grind.
Well, I want your story to get out there with whatever I can do to help you out. I mean, I started this podcast. I emailed you my background a bit. I work with a lot of the UFC fighters and all kinds of different people doing their PR and social media and filming and all that, right? And, just by doing this podcast, I run into an old shipmate, my former boss, my former lead petty officer, and I did a podcast with him. And then he introduces me to his really good friend who's Serena Williams' coach and Sloane Stevens. So I'm sure you're familiar with them. Anyways, they, those two ladies are top of the food chain. He's a performance coach. Now he's coaching the Yankees. And I'm like, I would have never met this guy if I didn't start the podcast. I wasn't trying to, but it just keeps happening, because I'm not after anything. I'm not trying to leverage myself up or chase anything. You have to market yourself hard, and I understand. It's a lot of work, man. Especially,
it's a ton.
It is a lot, and I know you do a lot of good stuff for people. But I definitely do see you in the future having a book on success or leading people or people coming to you after you've get your career at a certain level, as you move up, because you get a lot on your plate, and I understand that. I mean,
yeah, exactly, and that's the whole thing. I want to be able to continue to share the story, inspire people, and help people get to wherever levels they want to get to, and just showing them that no matter what, like nothing's impossible. Like I'm taking myself from never racing real race cars before to racing on TV. Like that's what I'm doing, and just because I wanted to, like I wanted to do something. So once I wanted to do it, and I had the passion to do it, I put myself in certain positions to make it happen. And it wasn't because I was, I wasn't given a lot of stuff. I'm not rich. I'm not whatever. I just resourceful and dedicated and consistent with the grind daily, and faithful, because that's huge.
Yeah.
And, can you hear me?
I can hear you. It's mindset, right?
Yeah.
Mindset.
Yeah.
Mindset over everything. Mindset, and then mind over matter with your follow through. Yeah. I can relate, and I understand. I mean, you have big goals. I mean, getting out of the Navy, I wanted to make a lot of money, and I thought money would be all my happiness. And eventually, I did make that money, and I learned the power of the goal, like all the different ways you do your goals. Like, do you do your goal with like you just jump up and down in the mirror every day? I'm the man. No, that doesn't work. It takes action. No. It takes a good plan, and it takes consistency, right?
Yeah, exactly. Consistency, a lot of action. It takes a ton of action, and then just willingness to believe. Just gotta believe that it's gonna happen, and never stop believing. Just keep going no matter what, even if you fail. My first, I think. In 2015, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 9, maybe like 8 or 9 race days. In 2015, I was like the first year of racing, and in all those race days, only 2 of them I did without wrecking.
Wow.
So I wrecked in almost every race day I had in 2015.
Wow.
And after the first one, I was like, I'm not quitting. I'm going to be good eventually. The second one happened. It's fine. I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to stop. Third one happens. It's okay. And I know I've wrecked in my first or 3 of the first 4 races now, but it's okay. The fourth one happens. Okay, now I've wrecked in 4 of my first, 5 races. Okay, whatever. I'm going to keep going. Oh, now I've wrecked in 5 of my first 6 races. Okay. Keep going. Okay, now I've wrecked in 6 of my first 7 races. Okay, boom. Now I've only wrecked 6 of the first 8 races. And that's what happened. And I just kept going. I was like, I'm not going to stop. Eventually this is not going to happen anymore. And then you go into 2016, and in 2016, I was able to have 1 wreck in all 18 races or so I did that year.
So yeah, you never gave up. And I think the big thing is for people to understand to not give up, and not everybody's going to face that much adversity. I mean, most people would have quit at the first wreck and been terrified and never looked at a car again. I mean, even if it was moderate, because I don't know. I mean, you got to pay to play. You got to take your chances, right? And yeah, it's the same for me in business. It was like, yeah, I'm going to be successful. Oh crap, bad month. It was up and down, the same thing for many years, to the point where you're like, gosh, does anything anyone's teaching me really work? Am I not doing something right? Why is it working for that guy? And then you start checking your inner monologue and saying, okay, I need to get rid of every self-defeating thought. I have to focus on things I'm not focusing on. I need to center it all and follow through. And I think that applies to anything you want to be good at. But you could probably at least give yourself like, hey, man, I kicked ass playing football. I played on a very elite team. And then I kicked ass in high school. So, yeah, there's proof that I've succeeded. I have to rely on that. And I have to know that the best part of me is going to show up. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, exactly.
That's this is half a Navy podcast, half Tony Robbins for all you listeners. But are you are you still stationed down there in Monterey, or do you just go wherever you're racing kind of stuff?
Yeah. So no, I'm not in Monterey anymore. I'm in Ventura, California now. So that's where my Navy Reserve station is, and that's also where my regular day job is when I'm not racing on a weekend. I'm the head of marketing and sales at Magnificent Chargers. So I've been doing that since basically right after I transitioned from active duty. I literally transitioned from active duty, and just 2 weeks later, I was working at Magnificent. So that's been a cool thing, and that transition was pretty awesome. It was pretty cool to be able to do that right after the military. It didn't take long. I mean, the job was basically lined up right before I even got out, so that was awesome.
That's a nice transition. Yeah, I went into sales when I got out of the Navy. I didn't know what to do. I was none of the stuff that I did in the Navy, all the firefighting, all the emergency medical stuff. My job was signalman, but I had all these extra duties in schools that I went to, and I couldn't just be a cop because I used to be a master at arms. I couldn't just be a firefighter because I learned all the shipboard firefighting and helo firefighting. They want you to recertify. So that was kind of hard for me, but I eventually found my way. It just kind of sucked because, yeah, I know how to save somebody's life, but wait, only in the military.
Yes, that's right.
That was a funny thing, but yeah, I was just by Ventura. That's a pretty cool area. Yeah, we were there and coming back from Arizona after Christmas, and we get stuck in some huge traffic over there. I don't know what was going on. Kind of near Magic Mountain area. I guess Ventura's near there, right?
Yeah, about an hour west.
Okay. Yeah, we started driving towards it to take a shortcut from GPS because the grapevine was just clogged, and I don't know if we went towards it exactly. My memory's kind of like playing with me, but we went off to the side towards the ocean and then cut around back up these weird mountain country roads that were like you should have been four-wheeling, and I'm in this rental Camry going, okay, please don't break this thing. we cut in front of all the traffic after taking these twisty, mountain fire roads, I guess. But I know that was a tangent. So, as far as the Navy, I mean, what else do you want to do with your career, or what kind of ships do you want to get on? What is on your dream sheet?
Yeah. So, really with the Navy, for being in the reserves now. So right now I'm with Naval Beach Troop 1. That's my reserve unit. And really kind of for the rest of my time, and you just want to kind of do some done really before. Like I've been on the ship the whole time. I time to explore some different things, do some things on land, work with different kind of units that do other things. Like, just do other stuff that I haven't done. Just kind of do all the other cool stuff in the Navy. So, or at least get some sort of experience to work with them. So that's really the focus for that.
It's so cool. I mean, anything can happen. So how is the balance with racing? How much of your time does that occupy? And then balancing that with your day job and your military career all at the same time. I know you're reserved now, so it's probably a lot easier, but how does that all balance? You're booked solid, aren't you?
Yeah, basically, like almost every weekend I'm somewhere different. So, I've learned how to balance it all. I just know that I don't have a ton of free time. It's just how it is. I don't have a ton of off weekends or anything like that, but it's fine because, on the weekends that I'm busy doing whatever I'm doing, I'm racing, most of the time. So, that's pretty cool and exciting, going different places, meeting different people, experiencing different things, and getting to do, things that most people will never get to do in their lifetime. So it's pretty cool to have the opportunity to do this. And, I'm just steadily booked all the time.
It's kind of like a movie star life. It's really cool, and it's very real. And I bet some of your shipmates come out and see you race in different towns if they're stationed out there. Does that happen too?
I've had that happen, yeah, and I'm trying to get it to happen some more too, especially as I move up.
Well, we want to give you more support in that. I definitely, I know that I'm talking to somebody who's moving their way up, and there's nothing going to stop them, and that's the way you're going. I wanted to bring this up because I was watching your videos. You did this like certain mile race. Was it Mopar or something where you did like 200 miles an hour? That was insane.
Yeah. So I did 200 miles per hour in the 1 mile. It was the Mojave Mile, and I do it in California each year. And I was like the fourth person or so to ever go over 200 with a third generation Hemi. So like basically 2005 through 2010 Hemis. So it was pretty cool to do that. Very fast speeds and fun, but exciting to reach that feat without blowing up the motor.
That was a badass video. I was like watching you just go, and I heard that motor. I'm like, that doesn't sound like my Hemi. That sounded a lot more powerful.
Yeah, at that point it was making about 1,000 horsepower.
1,000. That's like Veyron territory, pretty much. I mean,
well, it's funny because so I did 200.9 miles per hour in my big brick of a Challenger, and then a Veyron, which is a lot more aerodynamic and making also the same horsepower, 1,000 horsepower, and all-wheel drive with 4 turbochargers and 16 cylinders and every bit of engineering done to it over so many years. A Veyron was there the year prior. For me, the year prior that I did my 200, and he did 201.3 miles per hour, or 201.7 or something like that. So basically, he was actually less than 1 mile per hour quicker or faster than me, and that was in a Veyron. So
you were pushing a brick across the desert. You're right.
Yeah, if my car had better aerodynamics, like if it was just more slick, like the Veyron was, then I would have done the same time. It's not better.
Oh, maybe if you had the Viper. If you had the Viper, that would have worked better. The ACR.
Yeah, like if I had a Viper or something like that. Yeah, definitely making like. But the Veyron and the Challenger are actually similar weight, and the horsepower was pretty similar, but they're just different builds, and the Veyron's built to go really fast. Now, if you extend the length of the track to 5 miles or something, the Veyron will eventually get up to 260 plus miles per hour. My Challenger will not get up to 260. It'll probably blow up before then. But just for the 1 mile, it was interesting to see. And even in the quarter mile, the Veyron will do about 10.4 or so in the quarter mile. My Challenger was doing 10.4 see that I basically built a car that was just about as quick and fast as the Veyron, you know, up into a mile.
You know, I'm a car enthusiast. That's just the, you know, funny part. I grew up in Europe, and the first that what got me into it, and this is why I ask you all these questions. I have some product knowledge of what you're talking about. I won't be able to tell you all the different Holley double 4-barrel, double pumper expertise because I grew up in Europe, you know, and it was during the time when the EPA had really detuned all the horsepower, and there was a gas shortage in America in 1972 to 1984. So you'd have huge, like the Smokey and the Bandit car might have been, you know, 6.6 liter, maybe pushing only 170 or 180 horsepower, you know, so highly underpowered, huge bricks of steel, you know, like Ford Escort kind of motors. But it's been a change, but I get excited when I see speed. But I wanted to ask you, going back, how young were you when you started getting into the cars and speed and racing?
I was, when I started getting into cars, it was probably when I was 5 or 6 years old. I began liking it, but I actually got to do anything with cars. It was probably not until college. And once college hit, that's when I really had a little bit, have some fun. Got to go to the drag strip with my V6 Chrysler 300, and you know, just started doing a few things like that, watching different videos on YouTube about cars. And then once I graduated from the academy, that's when I finally had some money to actually purchase a vehicle. That's when I purchased the Challenger, started building that up over deployments and things like that. And then after that, I bought the Corvette and started doing road course events with that. And that's what, you know, eventually led me to trying to go into the whole professional racing world.
Wow. I think the Navy, I'm going to put this on so many places so everybody who's getting to hear what it's like to be a race car driver / lieutenant in the Navy and a midshipman football player. That's kind of like a triple threat. It's like more than, you know, I mean, I'm very complimentary because I'm impressed. Not much impresses me. That's impressive. I mean, usually most people would be happy to be just one of those. You know, as my ops boss said, he says they're the most highest regarded profession in the world pretty much for many years was the naval officer. That's like the true distinguished gentleman. So you've got that too. And you're a race car driver. I'm like, you're James Bond, kind of, but better.
Try my best.
So you're moving on up, and you know, I think more people need to join your Facebook page and your Instagram. And I mean, I want to get you as much support as possible. So what are your Instagram? What can they reach you at, and kind of start following you on social media?
Yeah, definitely. So Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, it's pretty much all the same name, which is Jesse, Jesse _ Iwuji, Iwuji. So Jesse _ Iwuji. And they can type that in on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. They'll find me on there. I'm pretty open. People reach out to me. I'm able to get back to just about everybody. Every once in a while I'll miss a message here and there, but for the most part I'm able to get back to everybody within like a day or two. And then on Facebook, just type in my name, Jesse Iwuji, and you will find my racing page. Just go to the fan page and follow that. If you have any questions, hit me up on there. I do have a personal page too, but you're only allowed to have like 5,000 friends, and I'm at like almost my limit. So people try to friend me all the time, and I can't really accept them. So yeah, I'm like, go to my fan page and hit me up on there. Follow that. That's my racing stuff. You don't want to follow my personal life.
Right. We wanted like remember MySpace? We could just have hundreds of thousands of friends. What happened to that?
Yeah, exactly.
It's over the limit of sobriety and safety to have more than 5,000 friends, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have friends that are fighters that have had to start like 3 or 4 other profiles just to keep up, you know, but then you get some of the same people rejoining, so that is what it is. But, you know, I wouldn't think it to be a bad idea if you started your own podcast as well. I mean, all it takes is a recorder and an upload. It takes about little effort like what you're doing right now. I definitely could see you doing that, you know?
Yeah, no, I thought about it. Once I get a little bit more time or something, yeah, definitely something I thought about for sure.
So any message to the Navy people out there and the race fans?
Yeah, the biggest message is whatever goals and dreams you have and aspirations, just take the first step, the first, write it down. Write it down on a piece of paper, write it down on your wall, whatever you have to do, just write it down and then commit yourself to it and tell yourself out loud that, hey, this is my goal, this is my dream, this is where I want to be and what I want to do in life. This is where I'm going, no matter what. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to achieve this. And once you say it, boom, already put it in the universe, your next step is to chip away at it every single day. 7 days a week, all 365 days of the year, chip away at the goal every single day. It doesn't have to be something huge every day you do for it. It just has to be something every single day. Think about it every day and do something every day. Before you go to sleep, if you're about to go to sleep and you didn't do at least one thing that got you somewhat closer, or at least tried to go in that direction, then it's the failure of the day. Do not have any failures of days. So even if it's sending an email to reach out to someone, even if it's just doing some research and writing some notes real quick on something, even if it's creating something, even if it's just going somewhere just to be at an event where you can learn a little bit more about what you want to do or meet some people, whatever it is, every single day do something. That this world with the internet, we are connected with so much that every day you can do something. I can do a lot of stuff to get closer to my goal in my bed just through my phone, just by studying stuff, studying film on racing, going and studying other successful people to see what their attributes are and seeing if I can mimic that. I can jump on my racing simulator, spend 2 hours on it. That right there got me just a hair bit closer to my goal. I got a little bit better at racing. My mind was focused on racecraft, I can jump on my computer and go promote my business some more so I can make some more money on it, and that helps my racing. I can, there's so many different things you can do. You're never stuck, so just every single day chip away and just keep doing that every day, pray every day, and stay with it. Never give up. Even in the darkest point of the night, the sun will rise. So no matter what, the sun will come up as long as you just keep going.
Wow. That right there is $1 million advice in financial terms, but worth more than money. That's great advice. And I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. I mean, this is powerful. This is the beginning. This is just the tip of the TED Talk I'm going to be seeing you do in the future.
Oh, yeah. I got so much for everybody.
I really appreciate you coming.